Um, I did a video this morning about the lawsuit within BLM, and Roland Martin uh, interviewed someone that worked for the global network, and it looks like it's more than money. And now Roland Martin video was titled "BLM Grassroots Separates from BLM Global Network Sues for Mismanagement of Funds." Also, um, this lady here, try to get her name. Try to get her name. Um,
for the purchase of personal homes for her, but also a home for the organization. And you had Black Lives Matter Global Network, a whole back and forth over their board of directors, who's controlling the group, who's controlling the money. Well, today, the Black Lives Matter grassroots announced, in essence, that they are separating themselves to fully explain this. This is their first interview. They had a live stream earlier. This is their first interview explaining this. It's Melina Abdullah. She, of course, leads Black Lives Matter Los Angeles.
Melina Abdullah, she's the LA chapter of BLM, and uh, now when you start an organization, there's always going to be that. I know I'm going to reference Transformers here for a second. In a organization, there's always going to be that Starscream type of character, and what I mean by that is there's that someone who is wanting control. If a Because Patrice Cullors stepped down twice, and 2021 is when she stepped down for the last time. So somebody came in and filled that role, and really just um, like Ms. Abdullah said, the person came in, filled that role, and completely enriched themselves, taking about $2.2 million. And it's I call it the Starscream effect, because um, because Mark Zuckerberg is part of that effect, and Facebook. There was him and three other people that co-founded Facebook, and he pulled the Starscream card, pushed everybody away, took over. That's it. But here we're talking about the BLM Global Network and the grassroots separate themselves from the network, and there's a inner turmoil, more like a BLM civil war, more like it, but in the courts and stuff. So, but the individual that swooped in pretty much locked everybody out of the BLM network, uh, Facebook, social media accounts, and there's chapter pages on Twitter and Facebook and even on YouTube and stuff like that, and Instagram, all that stuff, and they're locked out. They're locked out, and so let's.
Lena, always glad to have you. So explain to folks what y'all have decided, because when you look at that press release, that statement, it sounded very contentious in blasting the Black Lives Matter Global Network, the foundation, if you will, for a number of things when it comes to what you labeled in the press release as self-dealing.
Absolutely. So not only are we publicly making sure that people understand, or doing what we can to make sure that people understand that the Global Network Foundation is in the hands of a highly paid consultant who earned, according to their own reports, I won't say earned, I should say given himself contracts, according to his own reporting, of $2.2 million at the beginning of 2020 alone, right? So we want to make sure that we distinguish ourselves from them, that we are separate from them, but we're also suing them. We filed a lawsuit this morning. We know that when people donated to Black Lives Matter very generously in 2020 especially, but also through the last 3 years, that they were donating in order to contribute to the work that's being done on the ground, to the work that's being done to end qualified immunity, and the work that's being done to build a...
I agree with that. Qualified immunity needs to go. Because every time when a police officer does something stupid and really crosses the line where there's a false arrest, there's a lot of stuff that officers, deputies, you name it, that would where someone's falsely arrested, retaliated against, all kinds of shit like that. You know, cops do. The ones that don't really care about your rights, don't care about, you know, all I care about is getting the quota. That shit, you know. And if you go and file a lawsuit, okay? You go and you file a lawsuit, and the judge throws it out because qualified immunity. Now, qualified immunity is like pretty much giving a officer or deputy a pass. Now, whatever they've done illegally or not, you know, they're given a pass, you know. But I do agree with her 100%. Qualified immunity needs to go. I mean, like, dude, because when you think about it, it's pretty much it's shielding law enforcement from any lawsuit, you know. And it's like any other job, but except you're protected. You know, there's this shield of protection against any lawsuit. But it's kind of bullshit. And I do agree with her 100%. Qualified immunity needs to go big time.
Lack infrastructure in cities like Buffalo. So the work that's being done in the names of our stolen loved ones to topple unjust political systems, and systems like prisons and policing. And so those dollars should rightfully belong to those who first built and are fueling the movement, as well as our platforms. So people might notice a shift in what they see on Black Lives Matter social media. That's because in March of this year, again, a usurper, one of these highly paid consultants named Shalomia Bowers, logged us out of our own social media and is now using consultants to post on the platforms that we built over the last 9 years. The BLK Lives Matter platforms are in the hands of someone who is not Black Lives Matter, who in fact is a consultant that never had their boots on the ground, who never has been in the streets, who's never put their life.
Here's the question I have. brought in this consulting firm? Because there's a red flag there. Now, if I was a co-founder of a group that became a network, and I choose to step down, I would choose somebody to take my place. Because the word trust is hard to come by these days. Now, like she said, a usurper came in, and they're part of this consulting firm, and they locked everybody out of their social media, locked them out. And I mean, shit.
Lives and their careers and their bodies on the line, but it's using our work and the names of our loved ones to enrich itself.
So, this was, even when Patrice was on my show last year, maybe it was in 2020, I was still just totally confused who did what, who was what, and it was all over the place. And so, as a part of what took place today, she released a statement. This is part of it. She says, "When I stepped down from the BLM Global Network Foundation in May 2021, I left a transition plan meant to ensure that grassroots retain the social media accounts as the forward-facing body of BLM, being handed the financial assets to advance the movement and continue to be the body that represents Black Lives Matter." I mean, isn't part of this situation where we're in right now is because it was convoluted in the first place in terms of who was doing what, who was over what, and so.
Now that transition, now that would have to be in writing. And the question is it in writing? Is it in a legal document where if Patrice Cullors steps down, there's a transition of who controls this and this and this, and it's in a document. Good question there.
So now you're left at a place where the money was going to the foundation. The foundation was supposed to disperse it to these various entities, and now she leaves, and now, you know, someone else takes over, and so now it's sort of like all over the place. But you didn't have a continuity of leadership. Even when she left, you didn't actually have a team that was left in place. Like it was hell for me just to even find out who the hell to talk to.
That's right. That's right. And so there were two people who were very trusted that were named to be the senior executives of the Global Network Foundation. That's Makani Temba and Monifa Bandele. Unfortunately, the same political consultant refused to open up the books to them. So they said, "I don't want that mess." And they were actually never onboarded to lead the Global Network Foundation through this transition. Listen, when Black Lives Matter was born in 2013, when it came out of our collective rage when George Zimmerman was acquitted in the murder of Trayvon Martin, we were all just stepping into our sacred duty. We were building what we said was a movement, not a moment, right? And it took some time to develop.
I like that. It's a movement, not a moment. I like that. It's a movement, not a moment. I like how that's put in words. It's a movement, not a moment. I like that.
Structure. I was fully committed, and many of us were fully committed to continuing as a movement, not a moment. But this Global Network Foundation was kind of formed to receive these resources. And it was important that the boots on the ground also had a name and an umbrella. And so actually before the 2020 uprisings, we decided to assemble ourselves as a collective of chapters under the banner of BLM Grassroots, because there had been another consultant who we thought was misrepresenting Black Lives Matter, and we wanted to draw that distinction. When Patrice took the helm back after the 2020 uprisings commenced, there was kind of some better coordination and clearer vision. But then when she stepped down again in 2021, it caused an additional mess and opened up the way for, again, this usurper to seize control because he seeks to enrich himself.
So y'all are suing them. You're suing them to gain what?
We're suing them for the dollars. We're suing them for the social media platform, which were actually built and maintained long before there was a Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, right? BLK Lives Matter on Twitter and Instagram started very early in our work. 2013, 2014, we started gaining followers. So we built up these platforms. I was the main one who posted to our BLK Lives Matter Instagram, which has 4 million followers, right? Who are looking for the work that we do on the ground. So we're suing for the return of those platforms, and we're suing for the return of our name. So they need to stop representing themselves as Black Lives Matter. They're really damaging our reputation. They're saying things that are harmful and hurtful and contribute more to the trauma of families. And this is not who Black Lives Matter is. So we're suing for, again, the dollars, the social media platforms, and our good name.
Questions from my panel. Let's see. I'll start with Eric.
Hi, thank you so much for connecting with us this evening. And I saw that there was a piece that Black Lives Matter, the Global Foundation, had, I guess, done an inside philanthropy on yesterday. So just really interested in seeing, they're posting like, it seems like every, 2 or 3 hours via Sprout Social. So my question for you would be, you say you're suing to get that capital that you yourself have sweat equity into. Those consultants that are posting, out of curiosity, are those white folks? Are you all familiar with them? And how much are they being paid to do what they're doing currently?
So I've never been on the inside, and thank you for that question. I've never been on the inside of the Global Network Foundation. I don't really know with certainty how much folks are being paid and who the folks are. I can say that the board is...
That is a good question. That there is a good question.
It's populated by 3 people. And the person who for some time maintained individual control, sole control over the board, is someone named Shalonia Bowers. He is not white. He is a Black person who practices Judaism and does not really connect with Black community. In fact, when we were in a more cordial relationship, he shared with me that he'd never even been to a protest. So this is who's kind of at the helm. You'll see that his firm, Bowers Consulting, is the #1 expenditure from Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. I don't know who the other folks are. I do know that there was some time when most of their consultants were in fact white. I don't know if that continues to be the case because I'm not on the inside and I don't have...
Well, if it's the case here, I'm wondering if I'm feeling the Starscream effect. There's plenty of weasels around willing to step each other in the back. But that one lady asked a good question right on the fucking nose.
A friendly relationship right now.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melina, for being here. I do recall, and Roland probably remembers this, that these board members were on the show, Roland specifically in May, and it seemed a little inadequate, the kinds of reforms, I guess you could say, they were putting in place. For me, though, I'm still quite confused as to what the structure is, how any particular entity has claim over that specific entity. For instance, with the Black Lives Matter grassroots versus the foundation, it seemed like at the time back in May, this was done to create more transparency, but it seems like it's created more confusion. So I guess, let me ask you, going back to the initial kind of reforms that were announced, the quote-unquote transparency center that they put out there, were you in agreement at that time with the reforms that were made? And then the other question I have is just, where's the paperwork? I see the website, but I just wonder if there's some sort of legal paperwork behind this that kind of could help square some of this away, or is that what the purpose of the lawsuit is to try to establish that kind of documents beyond just what's on the website?
Right, so that is the purpose of the lawsuit, and thank you for that question. Let me say that the Global Network Foundation can't even spell transparency, like quite literally. If you go to the Black Lives Matter Instagram, they have a post now that says transparency, and transparency is literally misspelled. So the idea that they're being transparent in itself is a lie. The last thing that they reported was as of June 30th, 2020. We don't know what Bowers has paid himself since
That's
June 30th, 2020.
2 years
We know
ago.
that first reporting period was $2.2 million. We know that there's many other expenditures that went to, again, these highly paid consultants, but we don't know where those dollars have gone. The lawsuit will be helpful in demanding information. There we go, misspelled transparency. Yes.
Greg. Thank you, Roland, and it's good to see you, Doc. Good to see you, sis. And
Good to see you, Dr. Carr.
always, and I'm sorry about this. I mean, we're seeing the influence of foundations and the reparations movement, for example. All of a sudden, here comes the money, and we know when the money comes, the problems are soon behind. You got forces trying to shape this. I guess, you know, my question is really around how you imagine this might possibly be could be resolved in terms of this beyond obviously litigation and because of course they have posted today that Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation alleging that the grassroots organization got a $7 million budget and there were $10,000 a month stipends put in, and of course these numbers begin to pile up, and the simple fact of the matter seems to be that once money is involved like that, then you can almost predict what's going to happen next. How, and of course, Alicia Garza has been here in the last month talking about the work that they're doing, the census, the Black Census Project, and all that kind of thing. How, and you know, given your long experience as an organizer, as a thinker, as an academic, as a sister in the street doing this struggle work, what would be the best case scenario in terms of trying to figure out a way to achieve some form of operational unity? Is this a matter of one or two people that just need to be taken out of the process in your mind? I mean, I don't know. I'm asking.
So when we talk about operational unity, Dr. Carr, you know this better than anybody, right? You have to start with people who are aligned basically in terms of vision. The people who are in charge of the Global Network Foundation right now have no interest in advancing Black liberation. What they have an interest in is lining their pockets, and so we absolutely have to move them out of the picture. Best case scenario, we're able to move the three of them out of the picture and create a board that really is grounded in community. I think it's a phenomenal idea to have a well-funded foundation, right, that is led by people who we trust. We were on our way to there when you talk about.
If you want a board of directors, for your network, they have to be for the network and not themselves. And there has to be a structure where it's legitimate and well organized. The way it sounds here is that the whole thing is really destabilized, and I would find it that you want a board of directors that is willing to work together, as well as be in sync in protecting the network from this bullshit that's really just because when you hear the word usurper, Starscream, and it's that Starscream effect that someone that comes in and only thinks about themselves, while your whole network is getting screwed over financially, because the person that comes in is going to screw everybody over and benefit themselves. Because think about it, 2020, $90 million, all that money, and when you think about all that money, I still feel that buying 4 houses for $3.2 million is still kind of that would make anybody kind of question the head of the network, and because she put her mom on payroll, she put her brother on payroll, she put the father of her child on payroll, and I get paid very much, It's really the way it sounds, it's not being managed very well by anybody who's the one thing you don't want to bring in is a consulting firm unless that firm can be trusted. The word trust is It's important. Trust.
People like Makani Tamba and Monifa Bandele, these are people with decades of work put into Black liberation, right? I think it's a phenomenal idea for them to have charge of dollars that can be used for Black liberation. They can do that work. We can set up a foundation in a way that's self-sustaining, right? Where you give a percentage of the foundation away, you grant it out, you grant some of it to Black Lives Matter chapters, and you grant some of it to other Black liberation organizations every year, sustainably, right? And then I think it's wonderful to have, you know, a sister organization that is the boots on the ground, like Black Lives Matter grassroots. The issue is they don't share our vision for Black liberation and are moving based on some interest. So best case scenario, they will be moved out. Best case scenario, people who are then best case scenario, they will voluntarily say, you know, we're going to return these resources.
Money. All about money. When money gets involved, it gets cattywampus. Money can change people for the worse, for the bad, man, I tell you. Money can change people for the worse. And just the idea. I mean, if you want to donate it to the foundation, that's fine. But the thing is, you're going to have people who were like seeing all those zeros, and that wheel's gonna spin in their head, and again, the Starscream effect. Somebody's gonna get really greedy, like really greedy as fuck, dude. And it's going to be that when you think for a moment, all that money, you know, a firm, a consultant firm, bad idea, very bad, because anything can happen when you bring in a firm, a consulting firm, and who is paying this firm to be brought in. And I tell you what, this is insane in the membrane beyond anything, I tell you. Insane. Because all that money, man, can change anybody for the worse, man, I tell you.
Well, again, struggle for it. I'll end by saying this. I think that their statement is meant to put targets on the backs of activists. They know very well what they're doing when they name me, right? This is not a fight between Melina Abdullah and Shalomia Bowers, right? This is a fight between those who are boots on the ground that include me, but are not only me. They're the hundreds and thousands of activists who put in work every day versus, again, highly paid highly paid consultants who line their pockets based on the work that we put in. And standing with us today during the press conference were dozens of families, the family of Stephon Clark, the family of Andrew Joseph III, the family of Rashariel Mack, all stand with us. The family of Jacob Blake and Breonna Taylor stand with us. And they're demanding that the people who they know, who struggle alongside them, have the resources restored, have the dollars granted so that they can be trusted with making sure that the movement moves forward in the interest of Black liberation.
Okay, so I'm gonna try this again. So you have the Black Lives Global Network, which is the funding conduit. If people want to give, they were giving to Black Lives Matter grassroots. They were going to the Global Network Foundation, correct?
Right. That's right.
The Global Foundation is basically a fiscal agent. And so their responsibility was to dole out money to grassroots or to other organizations, correct?
That's right.
So the chapters, y'all have officially 26 Black Lives Matter chapters aligned with Black Lives Matter grassroots, correct?
That's right.
For the folks who don't know, because the name took off, they could not actually trademark the name. That's why there are Black Lives Matter organizations all around America that are actually not affiliated with the official Black Lives Matter entity, global network, or grassroots, correct?
That's right.
Okay, so here's where I'm still not confused, because if the people who are on the Black Lives, if y'all are successful in getting them moved out, well, who the hell then picks a new board? You gotta have an entity that's over a foundation. So who then picks a new board?
So here's two options, Roland. Either there could be a board of people that are trusted, and we could help identify those people, or, which is the one that was the original demand and the original plan, actually, before Patrice Cullors stepped down, the Global Network Foundation could shut down and just grant out all its money to the Black Lives Matter grassroots fund. Right.
Got it. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
So I'll actually hold tight 1 second. So,
Okay.
So the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation Board of Directors, they issued a response to you. They said we faced yet again another round of struggle for control of one organization. This time, people who say they love Black people and center abolitionist values, but whose action are furthest from movement principles of courageous conversations, reconciliation, and finding pathways for peace and understanding. And then it says, as the newly assembled Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation Board of Directors, we were onboarded to bring the organization into compliance. And along the way, we have done our due diligence to honor the vision the founders left behind. They said, we, the board, have zero interest in taking significant time away from our work towards building a solid trust foundation. We're focused on the future. And then they said the foundation board requested on over 10 occasions private mediation or meetings with Melina Abdullah and BLM grassroots, including and regarding social media policies. We did so in order to stay true to the principles of abolition. But Melina and BLMGR ignored and refused our offers. Is that true?
No, that's a blatant lie. And in fact, we have a letter requesting that of them. So this is a classic case of gaslighting. We have receipts that can demonstrate that as early as March, we said return the social medias and we can mediate everything else. That was written by our attorney of record at the time, George Fothery, and it went unresponded to. And there are many, many subsequent requests to do that.
They say that you take issue with, quote, not being given control of all financial assets and the social media accounts. They also say since Patrice's departure, quote, Melina Abdullah and BLM grassroots have sent threatening letters and attack of livelihood of BLM GNF's board members directly. Not only have they demanded the resignation of current BLM GNF leadership, in efforts to seize the financial resources of BLM GNF via intimidation tactics. They have quite literally forced the firing of a BLM GNF member from her job community. Respond.
Right. Yeah, that's another blatant lie. We did absolutely engage, and this is part of the calling in, right? We did engage in a movement letter that's remained private, right? 100 Black leaders signed on to a letter saying that Shalomia Bowers needs to step down. And so we have that letter. We've now released it publicly. But it's signed by 100 movement leaders, including Makani Tamba, including Monifa Bandeling, including people like Ashley Woodard Henderson and Rukia Lumumba. And
this is getting weird. This is getting weird. Even Roland Martin is like, even Roland Martin is like just mind fucked. I don't blame the guy. I mean, I'd be mind fucked too. Shit.
Pete White and movement elders like Hank Jones, and so we did that privately. It became public today, but until then was not public. So what they're saying is a blatant lie.
Just two more. They said, lastly, BLMGR and Melina Abdullah read a press statement claiming that Patrice Cullors created a transition plan giving all of BLM GNF's assets to BLM grassroots. That is absolutely false. In fact, that statement in the press release was recanted by Patrice and her team. No such plan exists or ever has. She said, in fact, when Patrice Cullors
it looks like there's either somebody's lying. Either somebody's lying. Because when it comes to money, holy shit. Holy shit.
stepped down from being the sole decision maker, executive director, and sole board member of BLM GNF in June 2021. She appointed a 5-person leadership council.
So she did appoint a 5-person leadership council. That part is true. It is true that they did not want the statement that was approved by Patrice yesterday morning released, and part of that is because of her legal fears. There is a transition memo, which I have a copy of, and so again, we have receipts. And so, at no time, my mother and my grandmother always say, if you lie, you'll steal.
This is the same chick that made an ass of herself during an interview about violence and shit. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? The whole thing there. She said, yeah. We'll see. But I'm starting to think that this Abdullah chick is full of shit. Herself. But I'm gonna let you guys come up with your own conclusion here. So check out Roland S. Martin, his channel. Watch the footage. And see with your own conclusion, whatever it is. Just so I'm gonna cut this footage, and myself, I'm good old Grimlock, and please share this video. If you're new, subscribe, like, hit the bell for notification, and I'll see. And always live healthy, happy, wise. I love you guys. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out. Godspeed.